Hi, it's Theresa again. I wanted to come on today and show you my latest art piece. It is a botanical bloom where you're planted piece, and I thought that you would like to see some behind the scenes action, so that's what we're here for. You can tell right now I am just getting my palette all ready to go, and let's get started. So I did pre-sketch the piece with a watercolor pencil. It's a technique that I just learned, and I think I'm going to be employing it often because it makes it so that there's no eraser lines that I have to deal with when I am uploading and editing pictures to be printed. I'm also using the wet on wet technique on this flower up here. You'll see on some other flowers I'm using the wet on dry technique, and I'm focusing my pigment on the parts of the flower that are going to have the most shade. So if you think about a flower, the tips of the petals are going to have the most amount of light on them. So I am making sure that that has the least amount of pigment, and sometimes I did mess up, and how I corrected that was I just put a clean wet brush onto the top parts of the flower and kind of rolled it around a little bit and took a little bit of that pigment off. So while you guys are watching me paint, I just wanted to take a little bit of time and tell you about a new sort of thing that I'm going to be doing. You guys know that the inspiration behind this series has a lot to do with being from California and finally accepting and living in Texas. And so I was thinking a lot about how I could give back to the communities that made such a huge influence to me. And I was thinking about the devastating mudslide and wildfires in California. You guys know that we moved from Santa Barbara, so Montecito is the town that is closest to Santa Barbara, and it holds a very special place to mine and my husband's heart. The town of Paradise is a town that was completely destroyed by a wildfire, and it is the town that is directly connected to the town that I went to college. These towns are rebuilding from devastating natural disasters, and I was thinking that when they were occurring, I felt at a loss. I felt my friends and people that I felt like were my family live so far away, and there is nothing that I could do to help them. And so even though the wildfire and the mudslide aren't still in the news, there are still families that are recovering from this devastation. So what I can do is give back. So a portion of the proceeds of all of the pieces in the botanical and succulent series are going to be donated back to the communities that were impacted by those horrific events. It's just my way to be able to make my art make a stronger impact on the communities that have influenced me and made it so that I'm here today. And it's also just something that I've always wanted to do, be able to help people that are in situations outside of their control. I just wanted to share that with you and the reasoning why you're going to see a lot more information on the organizations that I'm going to be donating to. If you have an organization that you think is worthy of a donation, definitely email me and I will add them to my list. I plan on doing this with all of my future series, and I hope that it is just a way for my art to make a little bit more of an impact. I know that it's super important to surround yourself with pretty things and things that make you happy, but it's also important to give back to your community. So if I can do that with the art that I create, then that's awesome. I also want to take this time and just thank everyone for all of the support and love. I know that you're going to love this piece as much as I do, and I can't wait to see it up in your space and hear how it has inspired you to follow your dreams and follow your path and bloom where you're planted. I know that it can be really easy to get in your head and talk yourself out of stuff, and we all have these big dreams and ideas and goals that we want to see achieved, and it's easy to just talk yourself out of it and tell yourself that it's okay and the status quo is fine. But I want to encourage you to look inside yourself and realize that your dream is worth pursuing, and you can bloom where you're planted, and you can create a life that makes you happy. You can do the things every day that you never dreamed you could. If you would have asked me 2, 3, 4 years ago when I was studying for the bar if I ever saw myself being an artist and following that path, I definitely would have laughed in your face and thought that you were crazy. but the joy and inspiration that I can provide with my art is such a gift, and it's so fulfilling. And I am so glad that I decided to follow this idea that had always been in the back of my mind, and I had just been too scared to see what would happen. And so I hope that this encourages you to follow that dream, and anytime that you feel like you are falling away or going against the path that you know that you should be following, I want you to take a look at this art piece and remember that I'm going through it with you, and you can do it, and you can bloom where you're planted, and you're amazing. And I am so lucky to be able to call you my friend. Thank you so much for joining me again this week, and I'll be back again next week with some all new inspiration for you. All right, I'll see you then. Bye.